Hi, my name is Angela Jacob, and today I'm talking to you about the occupation of Alcatraz. This occupation lasted from November 20th, 1969 to June 11th, 1971. 89 American Indian students and their supporters occupied Alcatraz Island in San Francisco, California. This 19-month-long protest was led by Richard Oakes, Lanata Means, and others. John Trudell was the spokesman. Before the occupation, this all began when the government decided to make policies that made sure that the tribes of Indian people don't exist anymore. The types of policies that the Indians were experiencing were the boarding school policy, which took children away from their families, the mission school policy, which was to destroy Indian identity of Indian children, and the reconciliation program, which was designed to when you can take an Indian family and then put them in an employment training program to help them find a home. Said by Wilma Mankiller, they no longer kept our language, our cultural identity, our religion, and most importantly, our land and natural resources. How would you feel if the culture and religion that you've been practicing all of your life gets taken away from you, just like that? In 1963, Alcatraz closed, and the U.S. declared it as a federal property, and the Red Power activists ended up claiming it. On March 9, 1964, Sioux men and Richard Mackenzie took Alcatraz over for 4 hours. If you're wondering what Sioux men is one of many of the Indian tribes, such as Mohawks, Cherokees, Eskimos, Ho-Chunks. From my research, on November 9, 1969, men named Richard Oakes, who was a Mohawk, Jim Vagon, who was a Cherokee, Joe Bill, who was an Eskimo, and Ross Hardin, who was a Ho-Chunk. All of these men took a boat ride over to Alcatraz, and then before getting close to the island, they jumped off the boat and swam to the shore to claim Alcatraz as a discovery. Next, on November 20th, 1969, on nativevillage.org it says, American Indians again landed on Alcatraz. Despite an attempted Coast Guard blockade, the 79 Indians included students, married couples, and 6 children, which included actor Benjamin Pratt and his siblings. If you're wondering who Benjamin Pratt is, he is an actor on shows such as Law & Order. The Alcatraz Proclamation. The Alcatraz Proclamation was like a treaty. So to make it fair for them staying there, why are they staying there, the government wanted to know. They wanted to make it known they were staying in Alcatraz, so they did issue this treaty. The American Indians stated that they wanted to purchase Alcatraz with glass beads and red cloth worth $24. Per acre, it would be $1.24. The Indians did compare their offer as a less expensive offer to other more expensive offers, such as the Manhattan Island purchased by white men. They wanted to give the portion of the land to the inhabitants that already lived at Alcatraz, such as the people that already lived there and the people that are coming to live there. They wanted to teach them about their religion, about their teachings, about everything they have learned about American Indians, about what they studied. The Indians did not mean any harm, and they just wanted this treaty to go peacefully, so nobody got hurt, and they can get what they deserve, freedom of the government's torture. In the treaty, they did mention that the Indians are used to all the things that Alcatraz already has to offer, such as that it is isolated from modern facilities and without adequate means of transportation, such as you could take a ride over to Alcatraz from boat on the other side of the across the island, but there was a no way back because the government wasn't gonna provide transportation for them. They are protesting on their land that they claimed. So Alcatraz also doesn't have fresh running water, so they didn't have anything that was clean to drink. The sanitation facilities were also inadequate, which was not good. There are no oil or mineral rights as well. And there was no industry, and so unemployment is very great. So how are they supposed to make money and supposed to trade goods with other people to get food coming in, fresh water? There are no healthcare facilities as well. So say cold season is coming around, someone gets sick. What are they going to do now? They have no doctor, no medicine. The soil is also rocky and non-productive, and the land does not support game. There are no educational facilities, so the children that want to learn their education and be smarter when they're older can't have that because there's no teachers. Lastly, the population has always been held by prisoners and has kept dependent upon others, because this used to be a prison, Alcatraz, or I'm not really sure if it still is today, but it possibly is. It did state in the treaty that this tiny island would be a symbol of the great lands once ruled by free and noble Indians. You're probably wondering how life started on Alcatraz. How did they adapt life on there? As I mentioned, all of these bad qualities that Alcatraz had to offer, how did they deal with all this? Well, first of all, they were allowed to protest. According to the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, there was a clause that allowed the appropriation of unused land by the Sioux Indians, again, one of the Indian tribes. One of the students that lived on Alcatraz for 19 months, named Lenny Dewar Jack, he states, "We called ourselves Indians of all tribes, and we were there to take a stand to demand an answer to why the more than 500 treaties with the federal government promising to preserve Indian land, water, and human rights have been dishonored over and over again." They wonder why. Why is this happening to us? These Indians occupied Alcatraz to turn it into a protest symbol for all Native people around the globe that wanted the ill treatment of the federal government to stop. One of the Indian people kept arriving to this island, and it felt like home. Everybody that was coming into the island, the more people that came into the island, it felt more like a home to them because it was all of their people. The first Thanksgiving on the island was a special one because it reflected the support from the Bay Area as well. Thanksgiving represented family and coming together as one, which the Indians are all about. In December, one of the Indians named John Trudell made daily radio announcements for the island. Now today we call them as podcasts. How this all ended. You're thinking this had to stop. That all of this protest and living with no fresh running water and no healthcare facilities, no education, it had to stop at some point because they couldn't adapt for that long. On July 8th, 1970, President Nixon officially repeated the termination policy of the U.S. government. This acted like a spiritual reawakening of our people, said by Wilma Mankiller. Fast forward to months later, in May, the government ended up cutting all electrical power and telephone service. So now they have their electrical power gone and their telephone service. So how are they going to transfer goods over to the island when you have no call? You have no way to call the person that's bringing the goods over to the island. From this happening, occupants started to leave the island. They started to, one by one, leaving the island. Everybody left. So many people left because there's no power now. There's no phone service. And then we have all of these other complications. It was just too much for some people, which is completely understandable. On June 11th, 1971, a big group of government officers took the last 15 people off of Alcatraz. So that was the end of it. The protest was over, but that didn't mean that they didn't get what they want. Alcatraz was a wake-up call for all Indians. It showed them that they can come together as one and protest for what they believe in. On History.com it says, the 19th month occupation had succeeded in galvanizing Indian activists. Indian rights organizations, many of them staffed by Alcatraz veterans, later staged occupations and protests at Plymouth Rock, Mount Rushmore, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and dozens of other sites across the country. So they weren't done. They were like, we're gonna keep going because they kicked us off. We're just gonna keep going. Eventually, the United States government caved in and they returned all the acres of ancestral Indian land. The government also ended up passing more than 50 legislative proposals supporting the Indian culture and beliefs. So they finally got what they deserved. They got all their land back and they got their legislative proposals supporting their beliefs so that they can believe and go on peacefully. And that's all they wanted. And that is everything about the occupation of Alcatraz. Thank you.